Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Global Road Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today is a regular guest of the show, Matthew Nugent. How's it going, Matthew?
Not too bad. Can't complain. Regular guest. I like that now. We're getting there. I like it.
Okay, first things first. We will not be playing Europa League football this season. That has to get a cheer.
That's the best thing that's happened to us in about 4 years.
Yeah.
That Europa League theme tune can just get in the bin. I just hope to never have to hear it ever again.
Yeah, no matter what happens between now and May, we will not be getting that theme tune at Old Trafford, so that's always a plus.
So, first order of business is Michael Carrick's first game as caretaker manager, which resulted in a 2-0 win against Villarreal. To be honest, for 77 minutes, it was crap.
Yes.
The goal came as a result of Fred pressing, and Ronaldo, took the opportunity, and then basically Villarreal had to open up, and that gave us plenty of chances on the counter-attack, and we managed to get another goal and could have had another couple. So what was your thoughts on the game overall then?
It was a weird game to analyze because it was exactly the same as it was the last time. Like, it was no different. Like, Carrick being in a suit opposed to a tracksuit was pretty much the only difference, and Ollie wasn't there. Like, we played the same style of football. It was really boring up until a few free kicks were hit. Like, I think Tellez had a corner that was decent, maybe a free kick that was decent. But other than that, it was kind of the same football that we had. Like, Sancho, I think, had a chance at like the 70th minute. Again, it was boring until that. Like, it was an okay game, but we got the win, and that's what really matters. I just sounded like I was getting interviewed on BT Sport there as one of the United players. That's just the way I said that.
Yeah, because they're usually quite mundane, especially Maguire.
The man has the personality of a toad. Like, it's just nothing.
Okay, it wasn't the greatest performance, but the result was all that matters because it helped to get
us through, and we're top of the group as well as a result of Atalanta and Young Boys drawing in the other game. And as you say there, it was much like a Solskjaer win that we've seen so many times, where we sit back and soak up the pressure, the game makes a few saves, and then we catch the other team on the counter-attack. And it seems as if Carrick deliberately, tried to keep it tight, keep it safe, not concede a goal, and then bring on Rashford and Fernandes off the bench, and it worked. But
it's not going to work in every game.
No, it was noticeably a slightly different system with a 4-3-3, but other than that, it was pretty much the same game plan. We were outpassed. Villarreal had 520 passes, we had 493, but we tend to not really outpass our opponents like ever. We tend to just counter-attack and let them do what they want. We've done it against City in the past, and we've done it against Liverpool in the past, and it's worked. Not this season, but we have.
Yeah, what we really need going forward, and I'm sure we'll discuss it later, is a manager who's going to help us
dominate possession in games, control games. I know it's going to be difficult with our midfield options are not fantastic at the moment, certainly the defensive midfield, but we'll come on to that later. Another positive from last night is Jadon Sancho scoring his first goal for Man United, and overall, I think he was my man of the match. Would you agree with that?
He's definitely up there in terms of the top players on the pitch. I think Foyth from Villarreal had a really, really good game. In terms of our best player, Sancho's probably fair. You chuck Ronaldo in there because he scored and had a chance for a second. But definitely an option.
David De Gea again he's always a candidate for man of the match, and that's never a good thing. But once again, he made a couple of saves that were easy enough for a man of his
caliber, but one of them was completely world class, wasn't
it? It's just De Gea. Like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, the guy, I can't even remember who. I think it might have been Stephen Howson that said the phrase. It was like, De Gea is great when we're bad and bad when we're great. So I'm kind of like, do I want them playing well? Or because he played unbelievable last night. He played really good in the Watford game, most of it. But like, it's just another performance from David De Gea's, highlight reel.
I wonder, could he possibly, play better when we're playing well? Is it a concentration thing? Does it suit him
to be busy, or
possibly? I had thought that myself. I actually had come into my head.
Yeah, because quite often the keepers at the top clubs, they have to maintain their concentration
because they go for long periods without having anything to do, and maybe that doesn't suit the game. I wasn't even thinking about that before the podcast started, but you've now brought that point into my head. Now I'm wondering, is that the case?
It's a very, very strong point. Like, it does make a lot of sense. You'll see like Neuer and stuff will have to play out of defense, so they're always brought into it. De Gea doesn't have the passing range to be passed back to be kept awake. So the only times he's ever really having to do anything is when somebody's attacking at him. And if it's not happening regularly, he will fall asleep. And now that you've pointed it out, it kind of does make sense.
I do have to say, though, that his distribution has improved this season. It seems like something that he might have been working on. Right? Okay, he's not at the
level of Manuel Neuer or Alisson or anyone like that, but he's certain there is a noticeable improvement.
Definitely. Still, Henderson is probably still the better of the two in terms of distribution, but even then, we haven't seen that this season. It's only just kind of like a narrative everyone pushes, and it's kind of well thought of because that's what everyone tells you. Anyone that's inside the club tells you how good Henderson's passing is compared to De Gea's, but we haven't really seen it from Henderson in the last year, even when he was playing last season. It wasn't magnificent. It wasn't up there with the best in the world. It was just good.
Yeah, he was okay. I didn't see anything. There was a couple of balls up the pitch that led to goals from Henderson, but one that
another play against West Ham and David Moyes wins today. But other than that, it wasn't. He wasn't spectacular or noticeably brilliant with his feet.
Yeah.
Judgment on that one, I'm not too sure. But, not too many other positives discussed from last night.
Obviously, Ronaldo scoring his 6th Champions League goal in 5 matches is incredible. The only complaint that I would have is that he scored more goals in Europe than he is in the Premier League. What do you think about that?
It's Ronaldo. Like, it's just Ronaldo. Like, there's literally no more else to say on it than that. We expect him to do that. The Champions League is his stage that he loves to be on.
Yeah, he seems to be more up for Champions League games than Premier League. I'm not saying he's not up for Premier League games. So there seems to be an extra fire in his belly
when he's playing in the Champions League. It's his competition. He wants to add to his 5 medals. Although, yeah, you'd have to question why did he come to Man United if he wanted to add another Champions League medal.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's clearly desperate to not only win this competition again, but improve his stats. And I believe now that he is now 1 goal away from 800 career goals.
Yep, he's 799. He had 4 shots last night, so he could have done it last night. It's very close.
Yeah, there was that chance where I think it wasn't an easy one, where
he tried to play it into the 4 corner, but I think he was stretching and the keeper was in a good position, so it wasn't easy to place it. But he made a good effort from it. I think he had a header as well, straight at the keeper. But I mean,
very good leap, just a poor header.
Yeah, his leaps are just the best that there's ever been.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So he had one of those games where he was getting a bit frustrated. Actually, you could visibly see it
halfway through the second half because Villarreal were dominating possession and he wasn't getting involved. But as he's clinical, isn't he? So he got 1 chance in the second half and he took it. And it was a brilliant finish as well. With his back to goal, lobbing it over the keeper.
As much as I don't like to give Fred any sort of credit to anything because I just don't like him as a player, it was what Fred does is press heavy. It just so happened that he kind of got lucky that it fell to Ronaldo and Ronaldo done what Ronaldo does. It was a beautiful finish. I think the one that he nearly dipped over the keeper would have been just unbelievable, but it was near impossible.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm not Fred's biggest fan either, as no listeners of the podcast will know. But he made 2.
Both goals. He made tackles that led to them. Also for the Sancho goal as well, the move started off with Fred winning the ball back. So you have to give him, credit for that. But he's good at that. The problem is he's just not good enough on the ball to be a Manchester United midfielder.
No, that's what worries me about like the coaches and stuff that we're being linked to. Is that a lot of them are ball players, like in terms of they like tiki-taka or vertical tiki-taka, whatever style of play. They're passers. We don't have that, and that's what worries me about Fred. Is that's what happened under Ollie, and it's the same with McTominay. They both aren't amazing on the ball, but are both very good at different things off the ball.
Well, you would expect that the new coach will be aware of this, and he probably won't make a midfield signing in January if that's possible.
Although you've got James Garner and Dylan Levitt that are there, who are both very good passers of the ball. They're just both out on loan.
I wonder, would it? Well, you have to wonder if these coaches around Europe that get linked with the job, will they be aware?
James Garner, I don't know. If they are, is there a possibility of him being recalled in January?
I think I might be the only person in the world that rates Dylan Levitt higher than him. I think when we had them both playing in pre-season, I think Levitt, just his passing range and his vision and his just comfortableness, it's definitely not a word. His ability to be comfortable on the ball is just unbelievable, that I've never seen from somebody who's never really been given a shot. He looked so comfortable in that midfield that it looked like he'd been playing there for 5 years, when it was in reality probably his 5th game starting, or even if he came off the bench at halftime, it looked like he just was supposed to be there, and then he was sent out on loan to where I think he's at Dundee. Whilst with James Garner looked kind of scared when he played in midfield, but at Forest he looks unbelievable, or at least he did look unbelievable.
Yeah, I think Garner probably has a higher profile at this moment in time.
Yeah,
it's more likely to get a chance in the first team.
It's definitely higher rated by the media for sure.
Yeah, that's 100% true. On most of the fan base, I would say. But yeah, you've got a point. Levitt is definitely a good player as well. Another one that I'm really a fan of is Ethan Laird, who's the right back in Swansea. Definitely, I think a coach who comes to the club who likes to develop youth will bring that guy into the first team, I think, especially given the limitations
of Wan-Bissaka going forward.
Mm-hmm. I think Laird's better than Dalot, and I think he's better than Wan-Bissaka going forward, and even his defensive capabilities are actually pretty solid. Not on Wan-Bissaka's level, but I think a bit of coaching, you could be talking something brilliant. You got to think of, with the coaches we're being linked to, look at the fullbacks that they have and how they coach them. You look at Poch with Danny Rose, who was an attacking winger, turned him into a great fullback. Like, he could do that with Ethan Laird. You could look at Eric Ten Hag with guys like Tagliafico. It's definitely possible. Valverde with Jordi Alba. You've got anyone that's been like this as a great wing back / fullback. Ethan Laird could definitely flourish.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Solskjaer never really gave him a chance in the first team, but
no,
I could see a new coach, especially one who knows to develop youth, bringing him into the team. Because I'm sorry to say, as good
a defender as you can be most of the time, Wan-Bissaka, I think you need a bit more to your game than that to play for a top club. When you see the fullbacks that Chelsea and Liverpool have got, Wan-Bissaka just isn't going to cut the mustard long term.
No, I really do like Wan-Bissaka, but his ability going forward is just poor. It looked yesterday as if him and Sancho had fell out. Like, when you play five-a-side with your mates and one of them's doing your head in before you get there, and you're like, I'm not passing him. That's what it felt like. It felt like he didn't want him having any of the ball. It looked like the two of them hated each other and they just wanted nothing to do with it. They looked lost.
It probably eases the pressure on Wan-Bissaka, have a genuine right winger playing
ahead of him, rather than United relying on width to come on the right hand side from Wan-Bissaka, because he's just not capable of that. So Sancho playing on the right is the right thing to do. He played well against Watford on the right. There was some really good crosses into the middle. One of them obviously led to Van der Beek's goal. And then again last night, I think he had a decent game on the right. So that's definitely the way forward. I mean, that's what he was signed for. We've been weak in that position for a very long time now. I know he's capable of playing on the left, but that's our weak position. So use him on the right. And I think that's his best position anyway. So
100%.
from here on in, Jadon Sancho has to play on the right wing.
I think with Jadon, his best spot is on that right hand side, drifting inside with the ability to bounce off somebody who's going to be there for him. A Bruno Fernandes or a Donny would be perfect in that they'll just sort of hold their space just outside the box and give Jadon someone to play 1-2s with and just sort of run and create space or run and drift inside or whatever it is. He looked amazing at Dortmund when he had Hakimi bombing past him, overlapping with then somebody to play off on the inside. May that be with Jude Bellingham or whoever it was before he left. He just looked incredible with that. With Wan-Bissaka down that right-hand side, he's not going to overlap and take a defender with him. So Jadon's not going to have that space to move. He's just going to have a 1-2 with somebody with still two players marking him, and he'll have nowhere to go. If you get somebody with an attacking fullback, Ethan Laird, Delo, whoever it is, that'll take a player and move him away and give Jadon space to move, he'll be unbelievable on that right-hand side.
Okay, I don't want to be brutal, but there's one of the reasons
last night when we didn't concede as many chances against Villarreal as we did in the home match was the fact that Dallo wasn't playing. I mean, he was getting roasted quite regularly at Old Trafford. It was, like I said before, it was one of the worst right-back performances I've seen from a United player in 10 years, and probably since Gary Neville's final game as a United player.
That bad. So Wan-Bissaka defensively is a noticeable improvement, and that's why another reason why I didn't concede as many
chances last night. Below for me, he isn't good enough going forward to justify him being in the team, and defensively he's terrible. So the combination of the two isn't enough to have him as a genuine, either starter or backup.
I think it'd be best for him to go back to Milan or wherever he wants to go.
Fair. I can't argue with that. Like, he was horrible in that first game. I think Ethan Laird would have done a far better job. I just think we need someone going forward. I think Dalot is definitely better than Wan-Bissaka. In terms of giving Jadon more time to roam, I think Dalot would be better. But in terms of defensively, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is clearly better. It's just depending on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to create those chances and attack more, I think Dalot's still a better option. Obviously, defensively still going to let us down.
Yeah, I think defensively he's so weak that you just can't afford to play him in any game. Maybe in the League Cup, but we're out of that now. Okay, another.
If you want to stop pad Jadon though, Dalo's a better option.
Okay, he'll be able to do that. He'll stop pad himself. Another thing I wanted to discuss from last night is the CARRICK moving Van der Beek from the
pivot into number 10. It was noticeable that he didn't play as well in that position as he did against Watford in pivot. Now, part of the reason for that could have been that Villarreal were dominating possession. When you're the number 10, you're not going to be in the game as much as you would be when you're playing the centre part. So I'd like to see him playing number 10 maybe in a game where United will be dominating possession. But for the Chelsea match, I would go with Fernandes. Had an obvious impact from the bench, as I expected him to. He's got a point to prove because he has been playing well. And he has had really good sub appearances in the past. So against Chelsea, based on what I saw last night, I would like the pivot to be Fred, Donny, and then Fernandes at number 10. Would you go along with that?
That's probably fair. I think I definitely prefer Scott as a player, but on form at the moment, it's just unjustifiable to say McTominay over Fred. So I'd have to say that's probably fair. Are you putting Fred and Donny as a double pivot? Yeah. Or are you putting Fred on a 6 on his own and letting Donny roam?
You would say that Fred is the 6 and Donny as the 8. But it would take a great manager to go along with that, because obviously Solskjaer liked this, what as he called a back 6.
Donny playing that position would obviously be a change from that. It would be braver, and that's what I want to see.
See, I personally, I like the 4-3-3 that we played. last night they had McTominay more as an 8 with the box to box, and then Donny as a roaming playmaker. So he wasn't an 8, he wasn't a 10. He was just sort of like drifting between and given the ability to free roam. I think if we have that, but then take Scott off and go for Bruno instead and having him as a 10, but still playing that sort of 4-3-3. So let Bruno attack more, let Donny roam free, and then Fred to cover and do all the hard work. Well, ideally, it would be somebody like Ndidi there that's going to hit unbelievable tackles and then just pass the ball. Fred's obviously not at that level, but of the options that we have, Fred's the best for that.
So obviously, long term, I don't want Fred playing in midfield, but we have to go with what we got for now. And on form, Fred is definitely playing better than McTominay, even though
100%.
Bigger fan of McTominay.
I think I might be McTominay's biggest fan because nobody seems to rate him. But based on current form, I couldn't even justify trying to stand his corner at the moment.
Yeah, I think that penalty giveaway against Watford kind of summed up how he's playing at the moment. Although Fernandes did play him into trouble. Pretty proud. So
I want to give you this opportunity to admit how wrong you were about Declan Rice.
I was hoping you wouldn't do that. I was really hoping you wouldn't do that. Do you know, I have made a lot of ridiculous statements in football. The Declan Rice one is still the worst one I've ever made. I genuinely was like, he's just a, West Ham version of Scott McTominay, was I think the point that I made. I might be wrong.
Yeah, he's having a fantastic season. I think he played well at the Euros, but I actually think he's gone up another level since then.
No, 100%. He's far better. Far, far better.
He's scoring goals, everything, even though he's playing in a double pivot. Suchek. Yeah, he's an ideal player for United. He's exactly what we needed him in, I think. And yeah, if we could get him.
Him playing alongside Donny in the midfield would be fantastic, and Bruno's number 10. That would be.
See, I still don't think he'd be the option. I still would rather somebody who's either a complete destroyer or someone who has. I see him more box to box because that's what he's doing, as you say, scoring goals. I see Declan Rice as more of a box to box. I think we need somebody who's just going to sit and do the dirty work. I think Wilfred Ndidi's my guy for that. I just sits there. Yeah.
So we need the same two midfielders. Maybe we do need Declan Rice and kind of a enforcer as well.
Yeah.
Because Pogba's going to leave, let's be honest. So there is going to be gaps to fill there.
I'm so disappointed.
I can hear the tears from the millions of United fans around the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what? If he leaves, I wouldn't even care. Like, where's he going to go? PSG and win a league title? I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, no, there isn't even a big market for him anymore. He should have went to Real Madrid when he had Zidane was there when he had the chance.
He should have.
It's gone now, really. He will have options because he's going to be available on a free transfer.
But no one would be willing to pay £100 million for him anymore.
Nah. There's two players that if they left United that I just would be like, nah, I don't care. And one of them's Pogba and the other one's Harry Maguire. I just couldn't care less if they left.
Yeah, just on that, I think Harry Maguire needs to be stripped of the captaincy as soon as the new manager arrives. As
soon as a new coach comes in, Maguire needs that captaincy taken off him. It needs to go to Ronaldo or Bruno or De Gea for me.
Yeah, I'd be happy with either of any of those guys getting the captaincy. Just Maguire just isn't the leader of that dressing room. And he's playing so badly as well. How is he meant to inspire anybody? Exactly.
If that's your captain and you're like, but he's playing poor, so why should I try? Like, it's the fish smells from the head. If he's playing poor, why is some random person coming up from the 23s going to their first team training and going, oh, look at who I've got to play with. I've got Ronaldo, Bruno. Oh, there's my captain. He doesn't care. Like, why would they care at all? I just don't get it.
And it shows what a kind of small mentality he has with a couple of the years when he scored against Albania.
Roy Keane got it spot on. Like, nobody cares that Maguire scored against, was it Tunisia or something? Who was it? Albania
and Sunderland.
Who cares? Like, who actually cares that Maguire scored?
So he thinks that he can put in symbolic displays against Liverpool, City, Leicester. And
then he thinks he's made up for that by scoring for England against Albania. United fans do not care about that.
I have some weird feeling that he's like has a net in his back garden that he was just banging goals into in the back garden and still doing that celebration. And then like that, because that's the same thing. Him scoring a goal in his back garden and cupping his ears is exactly the same as scoring for England against Albania in terms of redeeming himself for his poor performances for United. It's completely unrelated. It makes no sense. It'd be like I'm celebrating cooking dinner. It's completely unrelated to how he's performed for United.
Yeah, it was ill-advised. There's some things that have been happening off the pitch that can irritate me as well. I don't know how true they were. I don't know the context of them. But
one of them being in Greece where he was arrested. Apparently his bar bill was something like 63 grand or something. That really turns me off as well.
Then after the Watford debacle, he apparently was out clubbing in Sheffield.
Now, I heard it might have been his father's birthday or something, so I don't know the context of it. But again, it's not really a great look after another embarrassment.
It's not a captain's look. You want that guy to be your leader, your example. You look at Ronaldo. The guy's what, 30, 36, 38? What age is Ronaldo? And he's still in prime condition and performing at a top level. You don't want to look at your captain and go, I have a 28-year-old Harry Maguire here who already looks like he's declining in ability and never was a leader, really. You want to look at the guy that's a prime example of, if you go, what does an athlete look like? You go, Ronaldo. Like, why would you not give it to him when he's right there?
Yeah, it's such an obvious decision. You know, Ronaldo's captain of the Portugal team. Yeah.
Who do kids look up to when they look at that United squad? Who do kids go, I want to be them when I'm older? Nobody goes Harry Maguire.
Yeah, he's CR7. He's going to go down as one of the greatest players in history. Probably one of the greatest goal scorers in history for sure.
Definitely.
Probably in the top two in terms of that. He's absolutely unbelievable. He's probably
going to hold in fact, he already does. What are we talking about? He's scored the most number of goals in international football history. It's quite incredible, really.
It's Ronaldo's an elite of all time. Like, he's not just an elite for now or an elite for the last 10 years or an elite for the last 20 years. He is one of the best players of all time. Without a doubt. There's nobody can argue against that.
Yeah, and his longevity only supports that theory as well. Okay.
So we'll come on to the player ratings now. David De Gea, it has to be an 8 for me. Given
I was going to say an 8 as well. Yeah, I was literally thinking the same.
Yeah, those 3 saves were particularly respectful. Yeah. It kept us at least give us the opportunity to win the game. Okay, Wan-Bissaka, we talked about it earlier. What did you think of him last night?
I didn't even realize he was on the pitch for most of it, if I'm honest with you. He didn't really do anything ridiculous. He didn't really do much incredible to enlighten. So, like, I'd probably give him a 6, to be fair, because he didn't do anything wrong, but he also didn't do anything amazing.
Yeah, well, if he was a 6 every week, I would take that, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Who scored are giving him a 7.2, which is interesting because I think that's probably well over what he deserves.
Yeah, it's my opinion, I suppose. What about Harry Maguire himself then? What did you make of him last night?
Again, I'd probably be stretching it with a 6. Again, he didn't do anything spectacular. He didn't do anything brilliant, but he also didn't really do too much wrong. So probably like a 5 or a 6.
Okay. What about Victor Lindelof last night?
I still think Lindelof's a better centre half than Maguire, and I've said it since we signed Maguire. So I'd probably say 6.5, just to give it better than what I said for Maguire, because I think he is better.
Yeah, to be honest, the last guest I had, no one said the same thing, and I can't argue with that. For me,
yeah, Lindelof and Varane would probably be our strongest partnership. I think
in the long one, we probably need to sign somebody else because McGuire, 80 million McGuire was a mistake. And why he can't be relied
He can be brilliant one day and then he slice one into his own net the next, and he can't stay fit. So I think we need to sign someone. Jules Koundé has been mentioned, so that could be a target. I think he's a target of Chelsea as well. So there is he's certainly one of the options. Yeah, because I don't think we can win the league with either Lindelof or Maguire playing in centre back, even if it's just one of them.
I think it's definitely viable if it's Lindelof and Varane. I don't think Maguire and Lindelof would work though. I think you could win the league with Lindelof at centre half though.
But Maguire and Lindelof, I mean, we've seen enough of that partnership. It's defined Solskjaer's time in charge, and largely be a disaster. So Alex Telles came in last time, his first appearance
since the first game against Villarreal, and he scored in that game. So I don't think he'll get his high score in this one. Defensively, he's obviously weak. He gets beaten far too easily. But on his crossing, it can be brilliant and it can be woeful. I don't think there's a few decent crosses from play, but his corners, every single one of them were atrocious.
Yeah, I can't argue that. His average positioning is always sitting in around the halfway line or just before the halfway line. He plays almost like a left winger, and that always gets us caught. And the problem with that is that will be fine if he's a one option, and then we have a defensive backup for him. But we don't, because Luke Shaw does exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Shaw was playing last night, obviously, but there's a serious issue there. Like you've
pointed out before with his defending, not getting close enough to people. His position on play is good. Against Liverpool, it was evident where he was tucking inside and just allowing people like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Naby Keita to have a free shot on goal. I think that his form has tailed off since the Euros. Could be complacency. He maybe believes his own hype now that he scored in the Euros final, but his form just hasn't been good this season. But unfortunately, Alex Telles is so weak defensively that he can't really deputise for him.
No, it would be fine if Telles was, say, 22, 23. You'd be like, all right, he's got a couple of years on his belt, but he's, 28, 29 now? You're relying on Shaw to be the guy to step up and hit the prime in 2 years' time, not Telles.
Yeah, I don't think Telles is ever going to be the starter and let back forget it. He ever going to be a backup. The new manager will obviously have to decide if he's going to stick with Shaw or he's going to
bring somebody else in. Okay, we'll move on to McFred now. I thought we'd seen the last week, but we haven't. McTominay, again, he wasn't as bad as he was against Watford or as bad as he's been in recent weeks, but again, it wasn't very impressive. There's times when he just gives the ball away, needlessly, and it leads to the opposition having a shot on goal, and just isn't good enough on the ball to be a Man United midfielder.
I think he's a better passer than Fred, and he makes less mistakes than Fred. But I still, at the moment, would rather Fred on the team. It's a ridiculous statement to make. I just think McTominay is just off it at the moment. I think there's something. I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that he was injured and he's not come back strong enough, or what. He's just not himself at the moment at all.
So what would you score him then for last night?
Again, like 6-ish, because again, he done nothing ridiculously wrong, but he didn't do anything spectacular.
Okay, Fred, he made tackles that led to both goals. So
what would you give him then? 7 maybe?
You have to give Fred a 7, just for even the fact that he led to a goal. Like, that's literally the only reason.
Yeah, I think Fred probably wasn't great for most of the game, but his
contributions to the goals, have to be noticed. Yeah, you have to give him a 7 for that. So Donny van der Beek, that we talked about earlier, he had a great game playing in a deeper role against Watford in the second half, but unfortunately at number 10 last night, United weren't in possession an awful lot. He wasn't really in the game. He tried, he was putting himself about. I think he got a booking at one point, even though it was a bit harsh, but it's difficult to get.
I didn't even realise he was booked. I watched the game last night and didn't realise he got booked.
Yeah, it was in the first half. I think it was a tackle just on the edge of our box, and he jumped into the challenge.
But his foot wasn't up high or anything, so the referee just gave him a yellow. But even then, I don't think there was a huge amount of contact. But a European referee will always give booking for that. But it wasn't the performance we were looking for. But why would you change his position? After he played so well at the weekend.
It might have just been, let's try something different, and that might have been just it. It could have literally just been, let's just give something a try.
Yeah, so we'll just give him a 6 there.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
The second half against Watford excites me. I want to see more of him. I want to see him play 10 games in a row.
I want to see him sitting in around that box. I do want to see him attacking more. Maybe in that 10 would work, but I think a Roman playmaker would be perfect for him. A destroyer behind him doing his dirty work would be just perfect, because that's what happened with him at Ajax with Frankie de Jong, having that ability to just cover for him and let him do his thing. I think would work wonders.
You see, unfortunately, Fernandes always has to be the most advanced midfielder. When he came off the bench last night, you see why he's never ever going to be benched from one-on-one game, because the impact that he has and what he's capable of. So let's come on to Ronaldo. Scored again in here. Fantastic. He's so clinical, and now he's on 799 goals. So what would you give him then last night? It has to be an 8.
It has to be an 8. Do you know? I'd say 8.5. I feel like 9 would be too much. I feel like 8's probably still not enough. So somewhere in the middle, because he done a lot of our attacking duty on his own. He had a pass percentage of 80% success rate. So you can't be bad with that.
Yeah, and there was a lovely pass that built up to the second goal as well from Ronaldo. So, and nearly scored a second. It was a difficult chance and didn't quite squeeze it inside the post, but can't fault him.
I think anyone else gets that ball off that tackle from Fred, other than Ronaldo, it doesn't go in. I think only Ronaldo scored that. Yeah, his back to goal there, and he just was able to lob it perfectly over the keeper, and it didn't go in. The precision of it was immense. Okay, Jadon Sancho, probably his best game in a red shirt to date. This probably wouldn't be hard, but it was promising. He showed good signs against Watford as well. But last night was definitely a top performance, and he capped it off for the goal. Yeah, I definitely at least give him an 8. He had the highest pass success rate out of any United player on the pitch, with 93% that started, that is, because obviously the players come off the bench pretty late, so I'm not counting them. His dribbles as well. I think he was the most tackles as well. I think I might be wrong. He had the most tackles out of any United player on the pitch last night with 4. So he's definitely got to be an 8, maybe 8.5, because that goal was beautiful. Although I think he might have mishit it. Yeah, there was a stat earlier that Sancho had the second most number of presses in the United team. Fred being the obvious one ahead of him, but only by 1. So that tells you how he was working. It's strange. I never thought of him, but he had the most tackles in the United squad last night. Lindelof had 2, Fred had 2, Wan-Bissaka had 2, Van de Beek had 1, and then Sancho had 4. And another thing, in terms of tackles, one thing I really loved last night was when Rashford smashed Alberto Moreno on the sideline. I think good. After his antics when Villarreal won Europa League, I think every United fan really enjoyed that. Yes, I think everyone did. He was in possession by himself, and Rashford received the opportunity to come over. Just do basically. So Anthony Martial, I just don't know what to say anymore. Every appearance he's had this season, it's been unjustifiable. And when he has played, he's been absolutely woeful. And I just don't see any point in persisting with him anymore. I think that we should just sell him to Newcastle in January. If Newcastle bid for him, just sell him. Like, I think he was okay last night. Like, he didn't do anything ridiculously bad. He didn't do anything ridiculously good. He had, I think, 2 dribbles with a 90% pass success rate, which is good on the surface of things, but nothing came of it. It didn't lead to anything, so it doesn't really matter. Like, you can have 16 dribbles on the edge of your own box and get it away and do nothing with it. It looks good on a stat sheet, but it doesn't do anything. And that's what Martial is full of, is that his stats would look good because he's really good on the ball. He can really, like, he's got a decent pass on him, but he doesn't do anything with it. He'll just sort of pass it back to McTominay or pass it to Van de Beek and then let them do the work and then be like, right, I want the ball. I want to go on a wee run here. And then he'll run himself into danger, but he'll have run it past 2 players in the way. So it looks good on a highlight reel. But when it comes to the actual final bit of it, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and then the fake pressing as well, where you press one player, when that player passes it out to a teammate, it's a stop. You know,
yeah,
you're trying to make it look as if that he's working hard and he's not, and that really worries me as well.
That's what you do when you're in like 3rd year in school playing football, and the coach has been like, press more, and you're like, I'll run at this one guy, and you're like, that'll do it.
Yeah, that is not pressing. That is just a guy trying to make it look as if he's doing something.
It's 14-year-old football stuff, that, like, where you just charge at one guy and go, well, that's enough for me, thank you.
Okay, I never thought I would say this, but how do you rate manager Michael
CARRICK's performance last night?
I mean, he's just a B-Tech all on a Solskjaer, isn't he?
We've got to give Martial a rating, so definitely a 5 for me.
5 or 6, I think. I don't think he's done anything ridiculously wrong.
So Carrick, what does he get?
Again, a 5 or 6. He didn't really do anything. He just sort of gave Sancho and Ronaldo freedom to do what they want, and then De Gea pulled them out. It's kind of, there was no patterns of play. There was no real system, anything different to what Ollie was doing. But it's because it's the same coaching team. Nothing changed. It's just a different face.
Yeah, he obviously set it up to keep it tight, not concede, and then bring Rashford and Fernandes off the bench. It worked.
But that is not going to be a tactic going forward. I mean, we're playing at home to like Arsenal or Brighton or whoever, Brentford. That's not going to be a viable option in terms of the tactic or the system. We need that. Like I said earlier, it was just like a vintage only got a Solskjaer win away from home. So nothing has really changed. All we really have is sack the guy at the top, but all the guys working for him are still there.
It was the equivalent of just changing the badge.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed. It's just a different face. That's all it is.
The guys taking treatment sessions are still there. All the leaks come in, or that the players just don't take them
too seriously anymore.
No.
See, McKenna is a bit of a school teacher with his approach. Michael Carrick is so inexperienced. As a coach and remind a manager, Mike Phelan does absolutely nothing. And so I don't see how this is a good way going forward. It's okay maybe for 1 or 2 games, but we need to get a manager in as quickly as possible.
We need a coach. We need a proper coach with a coaching system. A Ralph Rangnick, somebody like that would be perfect.
Yeah, I want our next manager to be a coach, not someone who's going to come in and employ coaches. Ideally,
be a man who has his own philosophy.
That's like Eric Ten Hag gets a lot of stick because he doesn't really do a lot of media facing stuff, and it's because he is more of a coach than a manager, from what I've seen anyway. And I think a lot of people would rather that somebody who's going to come in with a philosophy, a system, because we've seen with Ollie that he's a man manager and then he relies on coaches to do the coaching. But we'll have to see. We'll have to play it by ear and see who it is.
So it seems as if United are going to try and get Mauricio Pochettino as permanent manager.
If they can't get that done, I think that will largely depend on PSG's ability to convince Zidane to take over there. If they can't do that, then they won't release Pochettino. Then United will have to explore interim options. Valverde is obviously the one being strongly linked at the moment. The other interim options, obviously, Reniak and Rudy Garcia. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on United, prioritising Pochettino as the long-term manager?
I think it's fine. I do. I would rather somebody else, if I'm honest with you. I'd rather a Ten Hag, but Poch is a great option. Like, he's not a bad coach at all. He's got a good system. He's got a good style of play. He has options that he can use. He has a 5 at the back that he tried at Spurs with a shadow striker, and an advanced playmaker and a destroyer. We've seen him do different styles, which is good. Which under Ollie we did lack across the 3 and a bit years. I wouldn't be against it if he joined. I just would rather Ten Hag, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I would go along with that, and I think 80% of the fan base would probably prefer Ten Hag
to Pochettino. Ten Hag is just such an exciting option. He's won so many trophies with Ajax, and you would expect an Ajax manager to do that. But I mean, he's so well regarded in German football as well. I think he was the Bayern Munich 2 manager for a couple of years. He's been interviewed for the position as Bayern's coach on a couple of occasions. I think they're definitely thinking of it in the future. And if we don't get him, then I think that's where he end up with. He'll be Bayern Munich's manager. He plays such an exciting brand of football. In terms of Europe competitions, was where he would mostly judge Dutch managers on. He's got to the Champions League semi-finals. Was seconds away from a final, and ironically, it was Mauricio Pochettino's Spurs who took that away from them with the last-minute hat-trick from Lucas Moura. He got to the Europa League final, was beaten by Mourinho's United, and I say beaten, I mean stifled is how I would describe it, with a very, very young Ajax team. So that is a decent pedigree for an Ajax manager. When you consider that you put out Madrid and Juventus when they were very good, you put them out of the Champions League as well. I mean, in this season, you thrashed Dortmund home and away. So no wonder United fans really want him as manager.
He is very good. He won the manager's manager of the year when he was at Utrecht, before he joined Ajax, and then he won it whilst at Ajax, I think once, maybe twice. I'm convinced he won it last season and maybe the year before too. He's just, the more I look into his stats and what he's done and what he's doing, it's just unbelievable. I think the problem that we would have with him though is that he has a great system there. He's got a good director of football. He's got good directors around him that give him the ability to just go and coach. I think the problem at United is we might need a manager more than what we want, because the people that are in charge above him know what they're talking about when it comes to football, whilst at us, it's bankers and nobody knows football. So it's kind of like we need our manager to manage the football side of things and get coaches to do the coaching side of things. Whilst at Ajax, it's people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, we all want to see Van der Sar come with him. We want to see Van der Sar come full stop to United.
Yeah.
But they're just not going to go down that road. The problem is the Glazers have a circle of trust, and they don't like anyone above the manager
coming inside that circle. That's why when Ed Woodward does eventually step aside, whenever that is, it's going to be Richard Allen taking over. That's just the way it's going to be at United under this ownership.
But you've got John Murtaugh there, who has been there for years doing a job, but under a different title. You've Darren Fletcher there now doing a job which he actually doesn't do anything. He just resorts to John Murtaugh to do it, who again has been there for years doing it, but behind the scenes and now just as a face of it. It just screams, let's do anything to keep people quiet. Same with the sacking of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It was we don't really have a plan, but everyone wants him sacked. So let's sack him and then go, like, this is what you asked for. So deal with it. And that's what happened with John Murtaugh and Darren Fletcher. They just went, you want the director of football. Here's your nice, shiny director of football. What does he do? The same thing he's done for the last 5 years, but with a different name.
Yeah, I have heard that John Murtaugh has been interviewing the interim managers, 5 candidates, but
he doesn't have any real control of power. Let's not forget that Van der Sar is the CEO of Ajax. For him to come to Man United and be just the football director, as they call it, it'd be a step down in terms of responsibility. Okay, it'd be a step up in terms of the size of the club, but as
in terms of the role he's given, it would be a step down.
Yeah, 100%. But I don't know about you, but if I get offered a job which was more money but less work, I'm taking that job.
Yeah, well, I had Duncan Castles on the show last week, and he said that Van der Sar has said
On record that he's interested in coming to work for Man United. And he's not expecting to be the CEO. He wants a job as the football director. So it's there if United want it.
Just pay him the money. Pay him the money.
But the Glazers just want to keep it in house. They always seem to promote within. It's always about
Guys they trust, and usually those guys are bankers and accountants, unfortunately. And that's why you say that's why the manager of the football team needs to be a manager and not a coach. Because
do you know who else done that when they owned a football club? Mike Ashley. Just saying. I'm just putting that out there. We're just a bigger Newcastle in terms of ownership. That's all it is.
I know, and unfortunately, like Ashley's tenure is not over. That's not the important
thing. I'm happy for them in that respect, but the first thing is that we're now within a couple of years we're going to have another rival for the top four in the Premier League title.
I don't know. We said that about QPR when they get bought out, so who knows? They might not put the money into it.
Yes, but the Newcastle owners are richer than Man City owners.
That's true, but they also hired Eddie Howe as a manager. So how progressive are they really thinking?
Yeah, well, I think he's okay. He wasn't their first choice.
He'll be the Mark Hughes of this operation. Once they get into being a team that's challenging for the Champions League, they'll replace him with necessarily say a coach with a sexier name from Europe somewhere.
Francesca.
Yeah, I can't believe he hasn't been linked with
an interim job yet. You seem to be linked with
and it's so weird. He's been linked everywhere else and not anywhere near us. And I'm like, he's there. Has everyone forgot about him? Half the names like Favre and stuff. I'm just like,
so
whatever.
Like our Ten Hag is not going to come to the club in November. That's fine. The only way he would come is if
we do appoint an interim and we decide not to keep him on. So and I think in the summer, I think Pochettino, assuming Pochettino doesn't come in now, Pochettino is probably the first choice in the summer, and then Ten Hag would be second choice, even though the fans would have it the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume if Pochettino doesn't come in now, who would you, out of all the interims that have been linked, would you say that Valverde would be your favorite option?
So here's where it's weird. My favorite option would be Ralf Rangnick, but the weird thing about it is, and this is where it gets kind of tricky in terms of where the logic behind it is, Valverde would be the better option because his style of football is a lot closer to Pochettino's and a lot closer to Ten Hag's. They both play that vertical tiki-taka in the same way that Valverde does. Whilst if you appoint Ralf Rangnick, he's going to gegenpress in a attacking 4-4-2 or 4-2-2, whatever you want to call it, which is going to be a different system entirely to what Valverde, Ten Hag, and Pochettino play. Pochettino plays a 4-2-3-1 or a variation of a 4-3-3 with a shadow striker. Ten Hag plays a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 variation with an advanced playmaker or a Mazzala, whatever you want to call it, with an inside forward coming off the left, which is the same as what Pochettino plays with an inside forward coming off the left. He just plays with a shadow striker and a playmaker on the right. They just play slightly different roles. And then Valverde is somewhere very similar again. Like Ralf Rangnick would be my preferred option because I think he'd do a better job right now, like immediately just off the bat, just straight into it. But I think Valverde, in terms of transitioning into the possibility of a new coach, would make the most sense.
Yeah, 100% see what you're saying. I've heard that point being made already today. That if you're
preparing for Pochettino taking over, you have to appoint an interim manager who has a similar style of football.
Yeah. There's no point going to somebody who's going to completely switch the system. It's the same as going from Van Gaal to Mourinho made sense, two defensive style coaches, and then going to Ole, who's going to counterattack. You're completely switching the system, means you need to buy an entirely new set of players. Your coaches are going to have to teach the players how to do an entirely new system. There's a learning curve then. Like if you want to do it, this season's kind of like a dud season and you're just prepping for the new coach, Valverde makes the most sense because it means that your players won't have a huge adjustment period in the summer as well as now. It'll be an adjustment period now. And then when it comes to Pochettino, it'll be kind of like, okay, right, I see what the differences are here a little bit in terms of specific players rather than an entirely new system.
Well, I hope that John Berta is able to explain this to Edward in a way that he might understand.
Well, I mean, I've just done it. You can just clip me saying it there now and send it to him, and hopefully that might make sense.
It might not, because I have to remember he's /end.
What I'll do is I'll try and simplify it down with crayons or something. I don't know how I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, we have to appoint an interim manager with a view to the permanent manager. If indeed we're not appointing
the permanent manager right now. Raniak would make sense if we're bringing in Klopp or Tuchel in the summer, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would make sense. I really like Raniak as a coach. I think he's great. I think his system is unbelievable. He inspired people like Klopp in management, but in terms of going forward, it doesn't make any sense unless you do plan on going, right, we'll give you interim manager until the end of the season, and then you're our director of football, because then you have a system in place. But we're relying on Woodward to have a system, so it's not going to happen.
Okay, next time I have you on the show, no doubt we will have either a manager or interim manager.
Yes, I don't think Michael Carrick would be in the role. So I look forward to our chat probably at some stage in December. And it's been
Hopefully.
a pleasure to have you on.
Yes, been a pleasure. Been an absolute pleasure talking a lot of nonsense and slagging off everyone that I can in that United squad.
Yeah, see you later.
Yes, good luck.